All right, thank you for joining us this evening. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you again for joining us. At this time, we will do our land acknowledgement, which will be read by Director Witherspoon.
Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Chinookan peoples and the Cowlitz tribe. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Thank you, Jackie. All right, before we move on to adopt the agenda, I just wanted to let everyone in the audience know that Director Perkins is on the line with us this evening, and Director Gronwald is absent this evening. All right, so the next item of business is to adopt this evening's agenda. We'll entertain a motion.
I move for adoption for the agenda tonight as presented.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, next is Special Recognition Month. It is Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm going to take a moment and let John say a few words about that.
Yeah, I have a statement to read related to our celebration of our Hispanic students. So I want to take a moment to recognize that we are currently celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month in Evergreen Public Schools and throughout the country. This annual recognition runs from September 15th through October 15th. This is particularly important celebration in our district where more than 6,000 students, which is over a quarter of our entire enrollment, identifies as Hispanic. Throughout the month, our schools and students are celebrating by reading books, watching films, and creating art that will help them learn about the positive impact that Hispanic people and Hispanic cultures have had on our world. Our Hispanic families have been gathering weekly to celebrate both virtually and in person sessions led by our district's Spanish language parent liaison, Adriana Garcia. The celebrations will culminate in 2 weeks with what I'm told is an amazing potluck featuring authentic and delicious foods and drinks. I hope we can invoke the beautiful theme of this year's Hispanic Heritage Month, Todos Somos, Somos Uno, which means we are all, we are one.
Excellent, thank you, Superintendent Boyd. I like that you could read it because then you can say some of it in Spanish. It's always fun to have some of the celebrations at our schools. I know that our schools do an awesome job of multicultural nights and do lots of work to celebrate our students. All right, at this time, we will call for public comments. Any community member wishing to address the board may do so during the designated time on the agenda for public comments. Comments are to be directed to the board of directors as a whole and may not be addressed to any individual member of the board, the administrative staff, or the audience. Although the board will not engage in dialogue, the board chair may ask the speaker a clarifying question or follow up at a later time on an issue raised during public comment. General reminders, each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes. No mechanism where a speaker can donate some of their time to another speaker. No individual may speak more than once per regular meeting, even if there is time remaining. And please state your name and district affiliation, if any. So we will go ahead and begin with Amy Prentice. Amy, go ahead and come on up. Hi there, Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Prentice. I'm a mom of a first and a second grader in the district. My 7-year-old daughter, Madeline, came and spoke to you 2 weeks ago at your last board meeting. In your remarks about the teacher contract at the end, our superintendent said he wanted to elevate the wisest thing said today, and it was said by Madeline. She said, I hope we can all just figure out how we can get along. And we're not using that strategy right now, so I think that's what we all need to do is figure out a way forward. Those remarks really didn't sit well with me, and I think they didn't sit well with a lot of people in this room, and so I just came here tonight because I was hoping to add a little bit of context and correct the record. I honestly didn't want Madeline to speak to you. It's hard enough to bring a couple of tired kids here at dinner time, but more importantly, I have not gotten the sense that you listen or incorporate comments or feedback from students or parents. I've watched and attended a number of the board meetings. I watched parents and students stand up and ask you over and over to reconsider your March budget to save positions that most affected students, like at-risk advocates and teacher librarians and family resource coordinators, but you did not listen. There were no changes to the budget you ultimately adopted. I watched parents and students ask you to save the Excel program that touched so many kids, and you did not listen. I watched 40-something teachers stand up here in front of you in August and ask you to bargain in good faith and agree on a contract for them so that they could start school on time, so our kids could go to school when they were supposed to, but you did not listen. During the teacher strike, my kids showed up every day at the picket line in front of their school to support their teachers, who they love. They witnessed lots of supportive honks and waves, but I'm gonna be honest, my 6- and 7-year-old saw grown adults screaming profanity at teachers out of car windows. They saw them call teachers names that are so vile, I won't even use them in this room in front of you. They watched parents and community members call teachers greedy and lazy and tell them to get back to the classroom. And I just want you to know that as a parent, I feel like you all bear responsibility for that, because that was the tone that was set by the information that you put out to make it seem as if this bargain was strictly related to salary, which it never was. Undeterred, my kids walked laps with their teachers every day. They carried contract signs asking for a fair contract. They marched around this building. We emailed you over and over asking you to find common ground and get school open, and you did not listen. And finally, we brought hundreds of parents and students here to the front doors, and we asked you to support our students. And I don't know if you listened. I hope that you were. Madeline wanted to come here 2 weeks ago and stand in front of you and look you in the eye so that she could set the record straight and so that she could have her voice heard. She told you she was upset that students and teachers missed 7 days of class. She told you that she wanted the next contract to be even better than this one was, and you did not choose to elevate those words. You chose to elevate only the part that she said about trying to find agreement, but those words were directed at you, and you turned them back against parents and teachers as if we needed to figure out a way forward and forget the actions that had occurred. I just want to say, if you want to lead this district forward, I urge you to find your own words, and I urge you to show us through your actions that you want to repair the damage that's been done. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. All right, next up is Catherine Furtick. Catherine Furtick? Is that right? Did I say your name wrong?
No.
Oh. Hi there.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Furtick. I have 4 children, 2 of whom have already graduated through Evergreen Public Schools. I wish to emphasize that I recognize the challenges district leadership faced in navigating pandemic anxiety and uncertainty. Over the years, I have stayed mostly uninvolved to a fault until I can't justify my inaction anymore. I was too willing to trust that the board we elected had our community's best interests in mind, and your words sold us on that commitment. Despite everyone's desire to get back to normal, teachers witnessed most students lacking social skills and many others neglected, abused, and emotionally dysregulated as they returned to the classroom. Every class experienced students physically and emotionally abusing their peers, and teachers. Biting, kicking, classrooms being destroyed were not isolated events. Teachers quit due to no support. Those who stayed relied on sick days to manage the stress. In the midst of this business-as-usual approach, the neighborhood schools model was introduced with inadequate resources and training to classrooms in crisis. Many students and teachers were left traumatized with PTSD. My own children can bear witness to this with increased anxiety relating to school. Brain research shows anxiety and depression affect ability to learn. This is crucial to acknowledge. Instead of leadership addressing these valid concerns, teachers were met with apathy or belittling. Student and parent voices unheeded. Those far removed from the classroom make unilateral decisions inferring they are the ones knowing best. Teachers are expected to be sacrificial, take bullets for our children, then bullied as they are reminded of how much better their pay is than their peers elsewhere. Skyrocketing inflation and a salary-heavy administration gets raises. How are you going to advocate for our community? Leaders take initiative for meeting growing needs of those they serve. As leaders of EPS, you have the opportunity to draw attention to your district's needs and champion for post-pandemic funding. This is an opportunity for you to strive for excellence. To quote Ralph Waldo Emerson, "Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you are saying." Even when taking no action or making no choice, you are in fact doing so. The consequence of this is the loss of the faith and trust of your community. The words value, support, appreciate, bargaining, they ring hollow. Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you are saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. The next person is Lori Kamissi, and I apologize if I said that incorrect. Was that incorrect?
Yes. That's okay. I'll still come back. Okay.
Hi, Lori.
Hello. So, good evening, school board. My name is Laurie Kamasi. I am the music teacher at Hartwood Elementary. I am here on behalf of instructional coaches, teacher librarians, music teachers, and PE teachers in elementary across our 22 schools this evening. We have been told we do not have a substitute teacher shortage. The following data from our teachers who did not get to teach their subject since the last board meeting because of a shortage of substitutes. We have stepped into the general education classroom and students have missed out on their guaranteed library, music, and PE curriculum. The data is as follows. 4 unfilled sub-jobs were required to be filled by this cohort of teachers. The following minutes students missed in our subjects due to the lack of substitutes: library, 210 minutes, PE, 300 minutes, a total of 17 sections of 30 minutes each of library and PE were missed. Some of the highlighted missed curriculum EPS students missed and EPS staff missed planning for students include: I wasn't able to do assessments that were due for grades. I am trying to establish routines, and this means I missed the second day of library with my classes. I am now covering all my assistant jobs, which was 18 hours a week, which means I am so far behind and catching up is near impossible. I was unable to teach the U.S. Constitution lesson my principal had asked me to teach with the 3 classes. I will have to do it when I see them the following week. This puts me a week behind teaching them everything. As a teacher librarian, I only get to see each class once a week. This also means that those classes did not get to check out any library books. The library is closed when I am pulled, which greatly impacts our schools for Chromebook issues as well as library, literacy, and research. A total of 510 minutes of prep time was missed this school year by Evergreen staff due to a shortage of substitutes. A total of 510 minutes specialists were missed by Evergreen students since Monday, September 11th, 2023. This is a short time, and we've already had this much that students are missing. This is a problem. I just want you to hear me that it is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Bessie Hawkins. Hi there, good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I stand before you today wearing multiple hats, all deeply rooted in this community. First and foremost, I am a parent of 2 Evergreen District graduates who have walked the halls of our schools at Riverview Elementary, Image Elementary, Y East Middle School, and Mountain View High School. I am also a tax-paying community member, someone who understands the importance of investing in our education system. But beyond that, I am an elementary teacher right here in the district, and I come to you with a heavy heart. We are still reeling from the impact of the strike, a strike that should never have happened. It was a painful reminder of the disconnect that exists between those making decisions and those directly affected by them. Our classrooms, where the magic of education is supposed to happen, have been struggling under the weight of a poorly rolled out neighborhood school model. We teachers are passionate about inclusive practices and being able to have specially designed instruction for our students, but that is not happening in our classrooms. Instead, we have the least trained individuals coming into our rooms to support students, while the highly qualified special education teachers are managing schedules and struggling with weighty caseloads and behavior management when their students with special needs are melting down in the gen-ed classrooms and running the halls. These children are not having their needs met, let alone having their legal IEP minutes being followed. This is not the level of support our special needs students deserve, and it's time for a change. I implore you to take action. We need to shake up these upper district positions, and that starts with accountability. We need leadership that understands the daily challenges our teachers face, leadership that puts the needs of our students at the forefront of every decision. We deserve better. Our children deserve better, and our teachers deserve better. Our district leadership is poorly organized and disconnected from the needs of our students and teachers. It's disheartening to see these highly overpaid administrators who seem so out of touch with the realities of our classroom turning a deaf ear to our pleas for help. We need leadership that is actively engaged, that listens to our voices on the front lines, the voices of the teachers, the parents, and most importantly, the students. So I stand before you today as a parent, a community member, and as a teacher to ask the school board to take the necessary steps to address these issues. It's time to put our students and teachers first. It's time to make Evergreen a place where education thrives, where our classrooms are filled with hope and not frustration. Thank you.
Thank you, Tressie. All right, next is Heather Rice. Hi, Heather.
Good evening. My name is Heather Rice, and I have lived in the Evergreen School District for 29 years. I am also a school nurse in the district for over 19 years. I am here to discuss the strategic plan. Staff was shown the strategic plan during our professional development in August. The 4 foundations include teaching and learning, school environment, family and community, and employee engagement. As I read about each topic, I could not help but think about the hollow words that were used, as they are words that are not truthful in how the district is representing themselves. Teaching and learning. We will support all students. Our classrooms will be safe spaces where students feel a sense of belonging and are motivated to learn every day. Our classrooms are not safe. It has become commonplace that classrooms are being destroyed by students who are having difficulty in self-regulation. The rest of the class then goes on a field trip to another classroom or library. This leads to loss of instruction for all students involved. School environment. Everyone will feel safe, welcomed, and valued for who they are anywhere in the school. We will create spaces that allow all students to learn. Staff do not feel safe in the schools. There are multiple staff members who have filed grievances with the school district after being attacked by students. At the last school board meeting, a parent pointed out multiple points of entry to a particular elementary school. Yet during the 7-day strike, each school, which was empty except for the administrative staff, had paid security guards. And your bargaining team always seemed to have security. Family and community. We will engage, listen, and value input from our community. We will keep lines of communication open so that we can try to understand one another. On the last day of bargaining, parents and community members came to the bargaining site with cheers, signs, and coffee for the bargaining team. The district bargaining team wanted to call the police on the parents. How is this engaging, listening, and valuing input from our community? Trust me, the parents in the community took notice as to how they were treated. Employee engagement. We will encourage all of our staff to share their opinions, experiences, and expertise to inform any decision that impacts them and their students. This is exactly what the 1,500 EEA members did last year when we met with the bargaining team and brought our concerns to them. And in turn, they brought our concerns to you in March, April, May, June, August, and September. That is 6 months that I don't feel that we were heard. It is clear that the school district spent a lot of time and money on this shiny, colorful strategic plan. It is also clear that the district administration is not following the very words that they put down on paper, and that the strategic plan is full of empty words and thousands of dollars. In John Boyd's back to school video, he stated, "Healing needs to take place," and he is correct. An excellent first step would be for the district to practice what they preach within the strategic plan.
Thank you, Heather. Christian Ager.
Good evening. That was me in the last school board meeting that talked about the building security. And there's an article I wanted to share with you in a second. But I've come to you guys a few times. It's the third time now I've come up, and I've asked simple things. Just lock the doors at the school, restrict access to the students, just physical security of the structure of the building. I was told by you guys that the administration community, like in Washington, is very small. And if you guys are familiar, there's a town, Longview, to the north. They just dedicated about $468,000 to updating their security systems within their schools. Elementary schools received secured vestibules, and elementary schools had $48,000 dedicated to put 6-foot fences around their schools. I would encourage you to reach out to them, since it's a small community, and ask them why they did it. Because you might be surprised, because it's a reaction to something else that happened. Now, the school that we're at right now, it has unrestricted access, and I came here on the 12th of September, the last school board meeting, and it said, hey, just lock the door, figure out some sort of process. You put more cameras in the school over the summer to view the playground areas and things like that, but lock the door, restrict access, ask Camus how they do it, follow what they do. And I kind of thought I'd just leave it at that. But in the time since the last school board meeting to today, actually, at my children's school, a child was abducted out in front of the school by a non-custodial parent. And so that's what this article is about. It's in the news. And I saw it, and I was shocked. I saw it on TV. I saw the parent on the news discussing the issue out in front of my children's school. And I couldn't help but think, because I brought it up last time, hey, if maybe that security guard who sits here or sits in the administration building had been at my child's school, had you guys restricted access, like was asked, to the children, then maybe that could have been averted. It's a simple request. I think you guys need to start taking this seriously. If you don't understand why, reach out to Longview and ask them why. Maybe you already know. If you guys are willing to, I can hand you the article, or if you guys are already familiar with the situation, you guys could look into it. Thanks.
Thank you, Christian. Gary Wilson.
School board.
Gary.
Gary Wilson. I've got had three children with the Evergreen School District. 2 have graduated. Last board meeting, the first 12 people spoke on 2 common themes: more classroom support and teacher and student safety. You said you would talk about it before the next board meeting, but why not at that board meeting? Lack of transparency was one reason I kept coming back to these board meetings for the last 2+ years. Lack of transparency in March with budget cuts and bell schedule changes brought in 300 people to that meeting. Lack of true transparency on the teacher's strike brought in over 100 people at the last board meeting. I, like others, when I went out to the website, seeing if school was meeting or not, reading about the district's version of what's going on with the strike, I was led to believe it was all about the money. And going out to 9 different schools, talking with over 200 teachers, and then another day going here with people marching around here, talking to parents and hundreds more teachers, I realized for most of them it's not about the money. It was about more classroom support and teacher and student safety. Rob is online tonight, and we were both at a candidate forum 12 days ago, and he led off saying that this board has a problem with transparency. I appreciated him saying that. I've told this board that for 2 years. He said that every month he complains to the board that we need to be more transparent. I agree, but Rob, you're on the board, and you can bring these topic ups during the meeting. I mean, we can talk about this openly. Why does everything have to be behind closed doors? Vote Chuck Kepler, position 2, and Gary Wilson, position 3 for Evergreen School Board for change in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Bob Friedland. Hi, Bob.
Hi, my name is Bob Friedland, and I'm a member of the Clark County Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board. I'll describe myself as an older, retired white man with curly hair and glasses. The Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board is charged with providing community leadership to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the developmental disability programs throughout Clark County. The board then advises and makes recommendations to the Clark County counselors on issues and services related to developmental disabilities. This October is Disability Employment Awareness Month. As part of the celebration, the advisory board will be hosting the Disability Employment Awareness Awards. This year, the awards will be held on October 11th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. These awards honor people with developmental disabilities in Clark County who contribute to a dynamic, productive, and inclusive workforce. Many of the nominees and award winners are former students here in Clark County. The celebration also recognizes the extraordinary efforts of large and small businesses who employ people with developmental disabilities in our community. The live in-person event will be held at Clark College in Geyser Hall, located in 1933 Fort Vancouver Way in Vancouver. The event will also be live streamed, recorded, and aired on CVTV for those who prefer to watch from home. This is a free public event, though we are asking for registration so that we may know how many people to expect in person. For registration information, please call 564-397-2130 or send an email to dd.program@clark.wa.gov. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Bob. What was the date of that again?
It's October 11th, Wednesday.
Thank you. All right, and that was our last person that signed up, and I don't believe we have anybody that's on virtual. So we will go ahead and move on to our board consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move for approval of the board consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Moved by Victoria, seconded by Jackie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, next is the superintendent consent agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, next we have a presentation. It's the TBIP and Title III plan, and I believe, I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Boyd to introduce.
Yes, thank you. I would like to introduce Veronica. She is the head of our multilingual department, and she's going to provide us with an overview of our multilingual program today. So,
Buenas tardes. I also want to acknowledge, as a Hispanic Latina myself, I want to acknowledge our families and our students on this precious month that we have to honor and celebrate the culture, the diversity that our Hispanic Latino families bring to EPS.
Thank you.
So before I start, I wanted to take a minute and introduce a few of our members that are here today representing multilingual education. So we have Tracy Haddad, who supports our EL educational programs. So this is for students who are learning English as a new language and are enrolled here. And then we also have Noemi Quinteros, who helps and supports dual language education. So why am I here today? So one, just thank you, board members, because this is an important topic that we'll be talking about today. Per our policies on transitional bilingual education and also state and federal guidelines, we are to provide an annual report on multilingual learner status. So when you hear me say multilingual learners, we are talking about students learning English as a new language. All right, so today's presentation, I'm going to give you a high overview of our obligations under federal, state, and Title III requirements. I'm also going to share a little bit about the demographics and overviews of who our multilingual learners are here in EPS. I'm going to review a little bit about the academic data that we have on our multilingual learners, and also provide all of you with some key recommendations that we are moving towards in order to support their success. So in a big highlight here, what you're seeing in front of you is we have a procedure number 2110 in EPS that really acknowledges me informing you and or our superintendent about multilingual status. We also have the state requirement. Under the Every Student Succeed Act, we have obligations ensuring that we appropriately identify our students in EPS, and that we as a school community, a district community, really understand who our students are so that we know how to best support them in the classroom and in their learning experiences. We have several obligations. One, to provide supplemental human resource and resources that really help our students attain and be on track to English proficiency. And we also have the same key obligations that we do for all students to ensure that they attain strong academic performance. Two obligations that are really critical here that sometimes is not well understood in our school community and in our district, as well as overall community, is that our students, by law and their civil rights, are part of basic education first. So these students have generated their appropriate allocations for basic education. So that means that all of our students must be in core instructional program, and that includes electives and extracurricular activities as well. We cannot deny them the right to participate. The other piece is, again, with supplemental resources that we do acquire from the state, is that we also give them supplemental services to meet, their educational opportunities successfully. We have some operational expectations here in EPS, and I wanted to call out OE 0, which is equity number 5, which is identifying barriers. So this one is really important because this puts a charge on us to really ensure that we have proportional outcomes across all areas. So this is graduation rates, this is academic performance, this is in reading and math, and that we remove barriers that are interfering with those same proportional outcomes that all students are meeting. We also have climate and culture, ensuring that all of our families and students who are part of our multilingual education, that we really are ensuring a culture that is accepting, that is responsive to their linguistic, cultural needs as well. And then finally, OE 11 is really about adopting standards and frameworks. So one piece I would like to call out on this is that the state of Washington has adopted the WIDA standards and also the WIDA framework. And this is something I will be addressing a little bit more further on, because this is essential to supporting all of our educators who are working with multilinguals, because I guarantee you almost every single classroom has a multilingual learner. These two pieces I will call out because I'm going to be sharing some data. So as far as the administrative procedure goes, we really need to remove barriers for over or under identification of multilingual learners who are duly identified in special education. And the other one is, again, representation, right, and equal access to ways that we qualify and identify students who are highly capable as well. Castañeda is a case that really is foundational to how we as a district ensure that we're bringing sound educational programs, that we also provide sufficient staff and funding to support our multilingual learners, and also evaluate the effectiveness of these programs. And Lau versus Nichols is simply that our students have a right to a rigorous content educational programming. Okay, so here's maybe what you might be wondering: how do we do this all in support and in service to multilingual learners? So again, all of our multilingual learners were counted in the basic education funding formula. So this is why our students must participate, and it's their civil rights to be in core instructional program as well as any elective and extracurricular activities, just like all students. Transitional bilingual, which you approved in your first board meeting, I think it was, that generates a supplemental. So right now we are generating about $6 million. And this provides the staffing allocation right now for all paraeducators that we have in schools who are bilingual. We also have ELD, which we call English Language Development Educators, funded through that source at the secondary level. And it really is all-encompassing. In reality, this should be in addition to. So I think we have some work to do in some of the ways we're using the funding. Title III is about $500,000. It cannot supplant basic education program, but we provided, for example, a multilingual summer school opportunity for about 60+ students, earning making up some credit as well as accelerating English. And they had field trips, and they had enrichment in language opportunities. And for some, it was their first opportunity to engage in the U.S. education system. So there were a lot of newcomers with us also this summer. We also provide tutoring services. So all of our schools have the opportunity as needed to provide safety nets during the school year. And so many of them could provide extended opportunities in tutoring. Family partnerships, some examples of this. At some of our elementary schools, we have a project literacy night. And so parents are coming in and learning about how to engage in reading activities at home and support them at home as well. And they learn strategies, what kind of questions to ask, and all of the reading material and resources are culturally responsive to our families. We also have supplemental professional development. A lot of this is providing professional development, for example, the WIDA standards, working with newcomers, sheltering techniques, etc., and also additional supplemental curriculum. So last year, for example, we invested in a digital program called Imagine Learning, Language and Learning and Literacy, and this program was designed for newcomers in mind who needed that extra support at home and beyond school. So here are the two. Under transitional bilingual, we're required to provide meaningful access to core program and provide explicit language support across the day and across every discipline. That's obligation number one. And then to the right, you see that we then have the specific language services. So we have traditional single targets, so in this case, English, being some programs through content-based and supportive mainstream. And then to the right of that, we have dual language education. This is a very important program for us. We right now are very proud to say that we have 6 schools, and they each have their pathway. So Marion, Wai's, and Mountain View are one pathway, and Pioneer, Frontier, and Heritage. This is a #1 strategy for really decreasing the achievement gaps that we see across the nation, not just in EPS, within multilingual learners. Why is that? Because we're using the language of instruction that students understand while they're learning math, while they're learning to read, while they're applying social studies concepts, science concepts in a language that they understand. And for students who are learning Spanish as their second or third language, this is enrichment for them. So for our multilinguals, it's about closing that achievement gap. For our students who are learning and taking this opportunity, it's about ensuring that we expand bilingualism or multilingualism in our community. Okay, here's a little bit of data. So what you see here is our October reported counts. Throughout the years, our population has fluctuated, as you can see. Last year in 2023 school year, we ended our last count was about 3,800 students. Right now, we are currently at around 3,500, but we're still assessing students to ensure they are eligible for services. We are expecting that we will have about 37 multilingual learners. The beauty about this is they're enriching our school communities, they are diversifying our community, and they're bringing language experiences into their schools. Here are the schools with the highest multilingual learner population to the right. Oops. Hold on, let me go back. Okay. So on this one here, what you're seeing is just kind of what languages our multilingual speakers noted are proficient in. So we can see that our largest population here are Hispanic Latino students, making up more than half of our multilingual population. Elementary on the right, then we have the Russian-speaking community of students, Ukrainian, and then where you see English, we are also obligated under multilingual educational or transitional bilingual to serve and identify our American, Indian, and Alaska Native students who might need additional supplemental services like tutoring. So we serve them different, but we also have to report on who we're serving. So that's where you see the English there. You also notice that in elementary, we have the largest number or population of multilingual learners, and that normally is a natural trend because so many of our students entering the K-12 system, for example, are coming from homes where maybe the dominant language has been the native language. The last thing I want to point out to you here is sometimes when we think of multilingual learners, we think about them being from other, born and raised in other countries. I want to point out that the bulk of our multilingual learners are born and raised in this country. And that's important for us to know when you see a little bit more data that I'm going to provide. So here's just a little bit of data that really is kind of bringing light to some of the focus that we need attention on. So for example, in the blue, you see that we have a high percentage of students who are multilingual learners and also have an IEP. So one thing to pause about this is that overall as a district, it's 14.2%. So we have a higher percentage of multilingual learners on an IEP than the average school district does. Under highly capable, only 1.2% of our multilingual learners are identified as highly capable, while as a district, it's 9.7%. And then our students represent 73% of students who are receiving free or reduced priced meals in Evergreen. So I just want to say I have met a tremendous amount of multilingual learners, and so many of them are so brilliant. And being bilingual or multilingual is an asset, and that to me is a student that has high capable skills. Here's a little bit of our district performance on multilingual learners according to Smarter Balance. So again, to the left, what we're seeing is that very few of our students are demonstrating or meeting grade level expectations in Evergreen. To the right, what you're seeing there for multilingual learners are students who are taking the alternative assessment. So again, these could be kids or would be kids that have an IEP. And they perform at a much higher rate than non-multilingual learners on the alternative assessment. This graph here is showing you, so we are in our second cycle of identifying schools that are needing improvement on a subgroup. For the past 5 years, we have had 3 schools. In this new cycle, those 3 schools continue to be on improvement status for the subgroup of multilingual learners, but we've also added 18 additional schools. Now, one thing to point out is that many of our multilingual learners, as you saw in the earlier graph, are also represented in the students with disabilities. As you saw in the language groups, a lot of our multilingual learners may also be represented in the Hispanic Latino group as well. So one of the promising things since I joined, this is now starting my 3rd year here in EPS, is that I am very proud of our strategic plan and our work. Because what this is showing is that we are creating a pathway to how we will behave, how we will act in service to all of our EPS students moving forward. Now we really have something that people can hold us accountable to. And one of the things I just want to point out is that this also helps us orient our services, our alignment across departments, our accountability as a collective, not just for all EPS students, but for students like our multilingual learners. And so for me, this is a path forward. And we might not be perfect today, but with time, we will get better. And as part as, you know, when I think about all the effort that's going into our working with schools on their improvement plans, every single school has goals for a subgroup, and many of them have goals specific to multilingual learners. I am not sure that would have happened had we not moved into this direction. So I'm really, really proud of this work, and I believe this work is going to help us move forward in better ways and be more responsive to the needs of all of our students. So what are we doing? So our department is really aiming and focusing on working alongside our school and school teams. So we are reserving, for example, every Wednesday, not that it only happens on Wednesday, but we are visiting our schools. We're helping consult and coach. Each school will have a school improvement plan that is also connected to their multilingual plan. This is something new for the district, but I do believe we have to get very precise and narrow about how we are changing the learning experiences for our multilingual learners. We are also really emphasizing some professional learning opportunities. So as required by the state, we are required to ensure that we are informed, have understanding, skill, and practice related to the WIDA framework. So we are just going to start providing opportunities for teachers, for administrators, to ensure that they understand the levels of proficiencies that students have and what they mean in really their educational experiences and planning for their success. We are also continuing to do a lot of work with our dual language schools. So we just completed the K-5 scope and sequence for reading. And so now we have a better idea that's horizontal and vertical about how we're developing strong readers in a language that is our target language in Spanish. That's being implemented now. We also continue to expand in our dual language programming by adding classes to Marian and by expanding the cohorts at Heritage. We will be looking at some of our policies that we have in the district and ensuring that we work with our partners in special education and also in highly capable. There's a lot of work that's been happening and it's showing a lot of promise because of our collaboration. And then finally, I just want to give you a heads up that we will have our first graduating class in dual language education at Mountain View. So these are students, many who have and will earn the seal of biliteracy. And I am hoping that you will approve a recognition before the board for these students, their families, for their commitment and hard work, and also acknowledge award ceremonies for something that I would love to bring to EPS is a Sí Se Puede recognition in honor of our migrant workers and in honor of Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez. Questions?
Well, I have a couple comments and then questions. I'm excited about that because I remember when we started that program, and it was such a thrill to go into those first kindergarten classrooms and see how quickly our our English language students learning Spanish, but then and having their counterparts who speak Spanish learning their English. But I'll tell you, they were like in it together, and I really felt so proud of that program. And I know we've had a lot of people from all over the state who come and visit our program because it is done really, really well, and we're very proud of it. So I'm very excited, and I'm voting yes for the, I like a party. So I want this, I'd like to have that because I think that those kids that have stayed through it, I've talked to a lot of parents over the years about it. They love it, and it's been a huge boost to the academic experience for all the kids that get to participate in that. I love it. So that's my first comment. Second, I wanted to know I've always been concerned about our English language learners as it pertains to Excel testing. Do we have the means to test them in their native language so that just to even find out how they would hold up on a test? How does that work?
Well, one of the things that we are working on is a lot of the tests that we use are in English only. Mm-hmm. We do have a nonverbal test, but it only, I believe, is for elementary age students, the COGAT. But we are working, one of our commitments according to our policy is that we look at multiple pathways. So I think as part of this, I know that our lead person for highly capable and Tracy have done a lot of work. And what does that mean? What does that look like? And how do we value other means of identifying our students for highly capable?
Yeah, because I think that we probably should have more of those kids and at least be identified, and we can help them better that way. Where are we at now on the number of languages that are represented in our district? Because over the years, I've seen it just grow and grow and grow. So where are we at now?
So I think we're still hovering around 67 languages, but we're getting very unique languages. I heard of one, I can't remember what it was, but Carmen pulled me aside and have you ever heard of it? It was somewhere in South Africa, but we also have a lot of singleton, like just several families, right, that have this one language, so they might be the only speakers of that language. But I could get something a little bit more precise. I would say after October 1st when we finish testing all of our students.
I thought it was probably going to be around that number because I've just watched it climb over there. Because I remember when I was first on the board, it was like in the 20s.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's just, it's gone. And even having languages that have no written form, that's adds a whole nother layer. I mean, I find it very fascinating that we have this diverse of a community, and I love it that we're just really looking for ways to celebrate that and respect those cultures and their needs as well. And I think it's good for all of our kids because it makes for a much more interesting life to have people from all over the world as friends. I think those were the two things that I needed to know. I was mostly interested in that highly capable.
Same question.
The same question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a comment. So it's not like it's a formal vote or anything, but I too like a celebration. And this is really fun for me because my first year on the school board, they were in kindergarten. So I can officially say this year at graduation, I've seen an entire class go all the way through.
It's neat.
So it would be a lot of fun to have those kids in front of us and really to see what because you talked about the Spanish-speaking students when they started and how they're forming and getting their confidence in the English language, but it's fun to see the English-speaking kids and how fluent they are now in Spanish after 13 years of. And so I think our dual immersion program is fantastic. I'm glad to hear that we're going to look at expanding it. I know that that's always been a challenge too, to be able to find teachers, but we've done lots of work in that area to try to expand. And then I did have one question about the numbers. I think it was the elementary that we have a higher amount of ELL in elementary, and then later on, that slide. What is the reason why it goes down? Because they learn English and then it's like they just don't talk about the other language?
Right. So our students technically should never be multilingual learners or eligible for English language service throughout their entire education. If that is happening, then we're not doing something. So our students should reach proficiency, and the state has a 6-year indicator. So anytime our students do not exit, like when they enroll after 6 years, if they do not exit, then they move into a long-term status. It is imperative that we do not allow that to happen. So what we should see is the national trend is that you see more multilingual learners in elementary, then you would see a little less in middle school, and by the time we have high school, the only real multilingual learners we should be seeing are those that are new to the U.S. education system.
So it's not really about tracking if you can speak more than one language, it's about being in the program.
Reaching proficiency.
Okay.
And you remember that our elementary schools are almost half of the grade bands.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference too.
We have more elementary schools and more students enrolled. I want to make a point because celebrating bilingualism goes beyond dual language education.
Mm-hmm.
Because we definitely have a lot of students who do not have access to like a Russian immersion or Ukrainian immersion.
Yeah.
And the seal of biliteracy acknowledges any student who has earned based on the criteria set forth by the state. So when we celebrate towards the end of the year, we're also going to be celebrating other multilingual learners who have earned that seal.
Bring them all in.
Thank you. I say you could vote and then we could have it on record. You know.
Trust me, we'll nag about it.
We want to see them all.
Just a comment, Director Magallanes, Veronica. Just one of the hardest working people in show business, who also was instrumental in running our summer school programs this year, and the feedback was really outstanding, laying a framework for supporting not only our multilingual learners, but students throughout the K-12 continuum. So thank you and your team for all your amazing work. Your passion is evident. Thank you for the excellent report, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, and I hope to come back and show, the difference we're making.
I think Director Perkins had a comment he wanted.
a couple more,
Yeah,
too.
and Victoria, yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I know it's probably just a voice in the room. Sorry about that part. I wondered about technologies which help with English language learning and with communicating with students who don't have a strong ability in the English language, like when they first get to the school. I'm a bit of a technologist, so I'm thinking about phone apps and so forth. And I want to recognize up front that the ones that you can just get for free and that don't require an internet connection are not that great. But do our teachers have access to something that can help them to communicate with a student who doesn't speak English?
So part of the technology, we just recently shared with all educators some of the invested technology that we have for educators. An example of that, I mean, all of us use like Google Translate. There is a speaking tool that can be used, text to speech, for example, translating material. We have a means of using Chromebooks, for example, taking a picture of a poster and then translating that into many languages when we're using something like Google, automatic translations. We also have ProTech para-educators who are bilingual. I would say maybe not enough. However, they are in our schools. And we did research one that I believe is being used by our security department that does do like automatic translation. When a parent speaks into a device, the other person could, for example, see what that person is saying. We have tried other devices. I bought some personally to like test them out, but it does require a phone. And so if parents do not have those apps in their devices, and it's really hard to navigate, and it's something that not all parents have the means to support as well. But we certainly look for, like if you have recommendations, we certainly look for many ways that our students could have access to information. One note is that many of our multilingual learners are formally educated. So they're coming with strong literacy skills. Many of our newcomers exit much faster than multilingual learners who have been in our system since kindergarten. And the reason for that is because they have a lot of knowledge and skill and foundational just education that is really instrumental. And one of the most important pieces is that they're strong in their literacy. So for many of these kids, they know what everything means. They're just attaching language. And this is why providing some strategies related to vocabulary is really all they need in order to accelerate their English. But yes, sorry to divert on that. I just wanted to make a note of that because they do bring a lot of assets.
No, it's encouraging to hear that the tools are there. I just hope they get easier to use for everybody, and we can do as much as we can to communicate with one another about what's possible. And John, I'll have a couple of ideas to suggest to you in the next weeks. I've seen some things, and I think it'll be cool.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Going back to, sorry, thank you, John. So one of the things that I thought about over the years is that balance that we have between, we want these students to learn English so that they can be in our society and have a great life living here and being productive people, but also not negating their native language and not discouraging our kids from still holding on to that along with the English that they're acquiring, because that diversity is important to them and their families, and it's important to our whole culture as well. So that piece, I've watched for that when I've been in the classrooms, and I really like to see that and, you know, we've got the Children's Culture Parade, and, you know, that's just one thing that we do every year to acknowledge that the places that our kids are from and their families are from, and all of us come from somewhere. Very few of us come from originally from here, let's face it. So, so I like that I'm seeing that, and I watch for it. The other question I have, though, is about parents and supporting our parents that are English language learners, or they just don't have any English language skills. Do we have ways to give them resources for them to be getting, you know, English classes? You know, I know we don't do that, but do we help them find those resources so that they have a way of you know, expanding their English knowledge?
I am embarrassed to say that I do not know what resources we do have in our community, but I will acknowledge my former, or our former director, who there was a time period when we as EPS, using Title III services, were providing English language education for our families. And somehow we've diverged from that, but I think it's, you know, that is empowering. That is really helping our parents be empowered. It's really, you know, helping them be informed so that they too can be advocates. Many of our families want the best education for their students, and language is sometimes what keeps them away.
Yeah.
I will say we have a lot of other alternative tools. For example, like we have Columbia Language Services that all of our, you know, schools have access to. It's not always perfect, I'll admit, but it is a source so that we can have either, you know, a virtual or in-person way of helping them communicate. And we are working on our language policies to support. But I think in terms of parents having an opportunity to learn English, we could do much better with that. And frankly, it is in our best interest that we do invest in helping them learn about programs and opportunities, and even include some within our own EPS system.
And we have our family liaisons
Right.
that help work with our families directly.
Yeah. So all of our Protect Para educators support. We do have Columbia Language Access Services. A lot of what I've seen also John able to do is communicate directly with, you know, our Hispanic or Spanish-speaking community. I really, you know, our team is quite diverse and have a lot of languages and supports in that way. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
Gracias.
All right. Next on our agenda is the superintendent report. Superintendent Boyd.
Thank you. Well-deserved applause there. A few things to report out. I want to thank Heather Fowler for helping to do the research related to the a community advisory team that we're putting together. So we have created an application for family and community members to participate in a community advisory team to support our decision-making and be two-way communicators to us and their community constituents. So I have an application that I'll be sending to the board to be able to review and provide some feedback, as well as some staff members, and we hope to have that application coming out by the end of the week. Also, our student advisory committee we're ready to launch our application for that, and I know if Director Gronwalt were here, she'd be really pleased to see that after months and months of planning with the board to elevate student voice, working with our two fabulous student reps here, we're ready to send that out. Send the application out. So we'll be sending that out with a communication to our high school principals and asking them to tap certain students and individuals to be able to do that. So we hope to have two reps from each school to be able to work with Principal Schoonover to get student feedback. So that's exciting. I am continuing to work with the Teaching, Learning, and Equity team related to our goals, metrics, and outcomes for our students. Really excited about the work that's happening there and the serious mindedness with which they are approaching our strategic planning process. And talking about our strategic plan, I have met with our team, and we're working really hard to do some specific next steps related to that. As you know, we're in the very beginning stages of implementing our strategic plan. When the board was very clear when they hired me that you wanted not only a strategic plan that looked nice on paper, but one that we could execute with fidelity, with outcomes, metrics, goals, and a clear vision of what we aspire to our students. We're beginning that journey. We've launched it. We've worked with our principals over the course of June and August. I'm really excited about how they're approaching this work. And you saw evidence with Director Magallanes in how the strategic plan is guiding the actual work towards improved outcomes for our students. So really excited about that. We have some working with our district leadership team to ensure that we are, as district leaders, supporting our principals in the way that they need to support their teachers to be able to support students to get better outcomes. So that work is commencing, and we're organizing around specific aspects of the strategic plan. Just a reminder that right now we're really focused on those first two pillars. We've yet to build out our family and community and employee engagement pieces. Those will be ongoing work for this year. Our teaching and learning and school environment are what we've focused on. So really excited that we have goals, metrics, outcomes, a clear plan for our schools and our district to be able to move forward for our students. And I'd like to invite Craig Birnbach up, Executive Director of Communications, to share a video to help us communicate about our strategic plan in the community.
There he is. So this video we just completed a short time ago. We are going to share it out to the community shortly. It is hosted by a future broadcaster, I believe. He's excellent at what he does, so hopefully the volume will work here.
Hello, I'm Alex Notarte, a senior at Mountain View High School. And today, I would like to share with you Evergreen Public Schools' vision for student success. This is the district's new strategic plan. It's a blueprint, if you will, from the classroom to the boardroom, for creating long-lasting success in the classroom and beyond. The plan is built around the goals of belonging for each, success for all.
It's our tagline, and it's a real short and concise way to explain to people what we're about. Making sure that each student feels like they belong in our schools, they feel part of our community. When that happens, good things happen.
The strategic plan is student-centered and equity-driven, designed to make sure students know that they are cared for, seen, heard, and empowered, and that all students will be motivated to learn every day.
We want to make sure students are empowered. We want to make sure students are seen, welcomed, accepted. And so part of that outcome is important because we want to really address the students' humanity. And while, yes, they're here in school every day with us to learn, they're also people who are growing in their identity and growing in their passions about who they want to be in the world. And so creating a sense of belonging is making sure all of our students are really flourishing and thriving and becoming their best selves and full selves.
Our schools are rallying around a set of goals, academic and social and emotional, to help students feel connected to their school communities and make sure that all of our schools are pushing for better academic outcomes. New this year is a district-wide math curriculum being implemented from kindergarten through high school. The math curriculum is just one step in a series designed to address learning areas in need of improvement and set learning goalposts across Evergreen Public Schools.
So cohesiveness and consistency. I want to make sure that students have access to the resources and systems that they need, no matter where they are in our system, to achieve success.
Developed with the input of more than 7,000 participants, many of them students, we are uniting around a common vision to help students become the best versions of themselves and prepare them for their lives after graduation.
If parents were to ask me as a board member why the strategic plan is important for their student, I would tell them that we want the best for every student, which includes their student. if they want a plan that they can help in their individualized learning and help them excel, we're gonna make sure that it happens. If there's students struggling, we're gonna make sure that we get them to where they need to be. And at the end, when they're done with Evergreen Public Schools and we see them off after graduation, they're gonna be ready to conquer their next step, which if it's education, if it's a career, whatever it might be, they're gonna be ready to go.
And setting these goals will begin early, making sure students get rigorous classroom instruction at all levels and are pushed along the path to belonging for each, success for all.
Everybody is focused, going upstream, all aligned to that those goals that we have, the strategic plan. And there's not any question about it. It's what's best for all kids.
For more information about the strategic plan and Evergreen Public Schools' shared vision for student success, visit our website, evergreenps.org/strategic-plan.
Thank you, Craig. That's the end of my report.
Sean?
Thank you. All right, Craig, you can come back up and give us the good news.
I got to go to a different window. All right. So I'm not going to start at the top of the good news because as per usual, we went to every single school and during the first week to share celebrations and the excitement at our schools for the first week of school. I will share that we did a short video the first day of school at Mill Plain Elementary School, of course, our newest building, elementary school. I encourage people to watch it. Kids entering their new school on their first day is adorable. So I do tell people they should watch it. This was mentioned multiple times tonight, the Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations that Adriana Garcia is heading on Mondays. They've been doing virtual. And then October 10th at 5:30. Unfortunately, that's a board meeting, so we won't be able to attend, but we're going to figure out a way to get pictures, and we'll share out this celebration that'll occur at Mountain View High School. I want to mention that National Merit Scholarship semifinalists, the list came out, and Evergreen Public Schools has 2 students that are semifinalists, Lu Yang Wu at Union High School and Eric Zahn at Mountain View High School. So a heck of an honor for them as semifinalists. Furcrest Elementary School, they got their new playground equipment right there in the first week of school. I was out there on a beautiful sunny day, so you could tell it wasn't today. But the kids were all over this new playground equipment. As you can see, they also, I believe it's a xylophone. I am not a music teacher, so but they have this instrument, and the kids are playing that. So this is part of the Envision Evergreen bond money, so help supported by our voters. And speaking of bond projects, Mill Plain Elementary School and the Transportation Center were honored by the Vancouver Business Journal. They named them 2 of their top projects for 2023. So, and finally, always love our art. Sometimes in this building here, but I do want to shout out Seize the Bagel. Often, has basically an exhibit of our art at their stores. And recently, they had Orchards Elementary School's art displayed out there, so it's always awesome to get a good bagel and enjoy some of the great artwork by our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. I love it when our community partners help share the good work that we're doing in the schools. It's fun to see it when we're out and about. All right, next on the agenda is our student board representative report. So I'm going to turn this over to Sullivan and Covenant to give us a report.
Hello, everybody. As we embark on this school year, I must admit that describing it as good might be a stretch, but it's certainly been manageable. The silver lining has been the joy of getting to know my classmates and teachers, which has added a bit of fun into our daily routines. I am truly delighted that the teacher strike is behind us and that we are all back in school. I recognize that it hasn't been easy for our educators working hard to catch up on missed times. Equally, I understand the challenges our parents faces with the new bus schedules and school timing. In the midst of this adjustment, I hold out hope that this school year will be a successful and fulfilling one for everyone involved, students, teachers, and parents. Let's support each other and make it a year of growth and accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Covenant, and good evening, everyone. I would like to reiterate and acknowledge that the beginning of the school year was stressful for everyone. I, as a student, know that it can be difficult to have an expectation that goes unmet. And I want to say thank you to everyone, especially our parents and all of our families, for working together so that we could get this show on the road. And on a more exciting note, as Superintendent Boyd mentioned, Covenant and I are going to expand our role to include a junior and a senior from each high school, including Gila and Legacy, and to join our board here. And we encourage all juniors and seniors who are interested in student voice opportunities to apply. This role is not necessarily meant for a star student. We're looking for input as to how we, as a district, can improve the student experience. And to ensure this, we will not be including a GPA requirement, and we will not be favoring those with more academic qualifications. The applications will be going out next month for our high schools, and I encourage everyone to apply. I'm really excited about this. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. All right, next up is board comments. So these are comments by the school board. I guess I can start with Director Perkins if he has anything to say.
I'm glad to be here. I regret not being in person, and appreciate the opportunity to go first. Not a lot to say. I came back last week from 3 days with the Washington School Directors Association in a support role for the General Assembly, which I know Victoria will have a lot more to talk about. But it was a really interesting meeting, and it set us up for the prioritization work that we have to do later on tonight and ongoing to make sure that that WASDA has the legislative priorities that we need for our kids here. Beyond that, I'm homesick. I hope to be fully recovered very soon, and I'll see you as soon as I can.
Thank you, Rob. All right, Victoria, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll go. I know we're going to talk more in the workshop about our General Assembly positions and the discussion, but I did want to give some highlights from a very interesting meeting. 2 days of voting, and since I'm the board's legislative representative, I had the voting credentials to vote for us here. Couple notable things was one having to do with the weighted vote. Since I think 1986-ish, we've had larger districts have had more votes to kind of, because there's so many more small districts, but there's certain things that are more impactful to larger districts. And because we represent more citizens, we've had a weighted vote. Well, that ended at this last meeting. And so there needs to be some more discussion about that later. And I'll be very interested in speaking with other districts of, larger size to get their perspective on it, because it could be, it hopefully won't be, but it could be a problem on certain things that impact us in ways that they don't other types, smaller districts. So that was just something that, it took two hours just for one vote to deal with that one. So Julie was on there listening, and it was interesting. There was another one, and it's so applicable to the conversation that's already been happening tonight and since the strike, and that had to do with collective bargaining. And I would say the highlight of it's a very small position and was passed. But what it talks about in there is the idea of a fair and transparent collective bargaining process, which I got very excited about because that's something that I'm feeling really committed to, is the fact that we need to have things be more transparent so that everybody feels like they're getting the right information. We're all in this together because we're really, and the conversation did center around wanting our teachers to have the best situation that they can and the best employment situation, but also not always just about money. And so that was the conversation, and it was totally supported by the group there. So I felt good about that, and it's something that I would like to take on as a kind of a personal thing to do some more research. I've already been researching what some other models might look like that would help us have a situation that is more collaborative and, kind of avoid what we have been going through this last couple times. So I feel encouraged about it, and I feel like we'll get lots of support from WASDA in helping as that rolls out. And just personally, I've been speaking with a number of people in the last couple of weeks, and as I've brought this topic up, it's been well received. So I'm feeling good about that. So what we'll be in our workshop talking about things, that there were 40 some odd items that were voted on, to talk about the legislative agenda that we will have when we go up to, because board members go up to Olympia and advocate for the things that our schools need. And of course, what's always like top of the list is special ed funding. And because it's so poorly funded for districts and it impacts all of us, I don't know where we're at now. Like, what's the shortfall of what it costs us to do special ed to what we get? I know Jennifer, she just knows all the numbers off the tip of her fingers. That's what, okay, I thought it was around 13. So that's okay. So $13 million, and that's not even a debate with other districts because we're all in the same boat on that one. And so it's always been a top priority legislatively, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, because the federal mandates we have to comply with, but they don't fully fund special ed, never have. So that's, that kind of information is still there and will stay there until it's resolved. So I just wanted to let people know that we will be kind of winnowing it down of the new pieces that we spoke about over this weekend, and have a list of priorities that when we go to Olympia that we'll be able to really speak to and have lots of data and information as we meet with our legislators. And of course, we meet with them during the year when they're not in session as well. So we'll just keep plugging away on that. But I think, I really want to start talking a little bit more too as we get more involved with our parent initiatives and our communication processes to have them help us with some of these issues, because they're used to hearing from us, but they're not used to always hearing from our parents. So I think that would be really a good thing. So that's just the little bit of the meeting for 2 days of arguing and voting and doing what we do.
Jackie?
I wanted to say thank you to everybody who came to talk tonight, who also were able to stay for the entire meeting. I think it's important that when you come to give comment that you can also stay and hear everything else that's going on. I'm really excited about the community advisory team application that's coming out, and I encourage everyone to apply if you're interested in that, if you want to be a part of that. That's the goal of this, to get more input, and that's really important. So yes.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to future agenda items. Is there anything we wanted to add? All right,
I think we have plenty on the list.
All right, well, seeing none, then we're going to go ahead and go into a recess where we will sign documents. We will then reconvene for a board workshop. We did have on the agenda a strategic plan alignment, but we're going to move that to our October 10th meeting since Director Perkins is not in person and able to present that to us. We're going to do our WASDA General Assembly position discussion, what Victoria was just talking about, and then we're going to get another legislative update. Thank you for attending. Have a good evening.